The sun dipped below the jagged ridgeline of the Hindu Kush, painting the sky in blood-orange streaks as SEAL Team Bravo 9 advanced through the narrow valley. Dust kicked up behind their boots. The air was thin and silent, too silent. The kind of silence that had a weight to it, that wrapped around your chest and refused to let go. Lieutenant Jack Mendez moved point, his eyes scanning every rock and shadow. He had done this enough times to know when things didn't feel right, and right now, nothing did. ETA to Checkpoint Bravo? Mendez asked. Chief Petty Officer Walker checked his wrist GPS. 5 mics. Reyes, the team's youngest but sharpest shooter, muttered, "This place feels off, LT." He was right. Intel had pegged this valley as a low-risk route, one of the few that hadn't been touched in months. But that was the problem. There were no recent drone feeds, no updated satellite images, and no foot traffic. Nothing. It was like someone had vacuumed the life out of the place. Bravo 9 moved in a staggered column, each operator spaced perfectly apart, every movement clockwork. Years of training drilled that into them. No wasted breath, no noise, and always eyes up. Then, a click. Mendez stopped mid-step. That sound wasn't part of the environment. It wasn't wind. It wasn't boots. It was mechanical. He spun. Down. The world erupted. A thunderclap of gunfire shattered the silence as muzzle flashes erupted from both ridgelines. Dozens of insurgents opened fire from elevated ground. Bullets screamed across the valley, punching into dirt, rocks, and gear. Bravo 9 dove for cover, if you could call it that. The dry riverbed offered little more than a shallow depression. And scattered boulders. Mendez landed hard on his shoulder, rolling behind a rock as bullets ricocheted all around him. "Contact left and right," he shouted. "Multiple. Reyes is hit." Someone screamed. Corman Brooks was already crawling through dust and smoke to reach the bleeding SEAL. Mendez brought up his rifle, scanning for targets, but it was chaos. Gunfire echoed from every direction. The team had walked into a perfect L-shaped ambush. How the hell did they know we'd be here? Walker growled, reloading behind a boulder. "I don't know," Mendez spat, but this wasn't random. Reyes was groaning, blood pooling from a thigh wound. Brooks worked fast, tying a tourniquet and injecting morphine. "Comes up?" Mendez barked. Petty Officer Banks, there. Comes guy, yelled back. "Signal's trash. Got partial connection to base, just static. Try again." Banks keyed his mic, adjusting the antenna and praying. "Overlord, this is Bravo 9. Taking heavy fire. Coordinates grid Charlie 215. Request immediate QRF. We are pinned down. Tuwaya. Over." There was a long pause and a garbled reply. "QRF unavailable. Nearest support 45 minutes out." Mendez's heart sank. That was forever in combat time. "Damn it," he hissed. Suddenly, enemy fire intensified from the southern ridge. Mendez's mind raced. They were being herded, funneled. Whoever set this up had tactical knowledge. These weren't just local fighters with AKs. They had a plan. He ducked as a round chipped the rock behind his head. They couldn't hold here, but retreating would. Expose them. Moving forward was suicide. Then something changed. A brief lull. A pause in the hail of bullets. Enough to hear a voice calm, composed, and foreign. "Stay down. 10 seconds. Watch the ridge." Mendez's blood ran cold. That voice hadn't come from anyone on his team. He turned to Banks. "Was that?" Banks nodded, stunned. "Came through our comms, but not from base." Before Mendez could ask more, CRACK. A sharp, precise rifle shot echoed through the canyon. Crack. Another one. Mendez peeked over his rock. Two enemy machine gunners lay slumped over their weapons. Dead. A third shot rang out. An RPG gunner collapsed backward, his launcher clattering. Down the rocks. What the hell? Reyes whispered, blinking through pain. Enemy fighters were suddenly in disarray, shouting in confusion, scattering like ants. Then more gunfire, methodical, paced, and frighteningly accurate, cut them down before they could regroup. Who the hell is this guy? Walker murmured. Mendez gritted his teeth. I don't know, but he's saving our ass. Then the voice returned, cool and steady. Fall back west. I'll clear your path. Walker looked at Mendez, awaiting orders. Could be a trap, Brooks said. Mendez stared at the ridgeline. His instincts were screaming. This wasn't command protocol. But his gut? It said trust the voice. He keyed his mic. Copy that. Moving now. Go, Mendez ordered. Single file. Cover the wounded. Bravo 9 surged from the riverbed, weaving through terrain as more enemies dropped like dominoes. Every time they hesitated, bang, another threat neutralized. Whoever this was, he wasn't guessing. He wasn't helping. He was running the battlefield. Like a conductor. Minutes later, they ducked into a narrow canyon, hidden from view, panting, bleeding, but alive. For now. The wind howled through the canyon like a wounded animal, dragging sand and silence in its wake. SEAL Team Bravo 9 crouched in the shadows, catching their breath, their backs pressed against rock walls, scorched by decades of war. The tension clung to the air, thicker than the dust. Everyone's ears still rang from the firefight, but above it all, one question echoed in every man's mind. Who the hell was that? Reyes sat against a boulder, blood seeping through the combat gauze around. His leg. Brooks worked silently beside him, red-streaked gloves moving with surgical precision. Vital, stable, Brooks muttered. He'll live if we get him out of here in the next hour. Mendez nodded, gripping his rifle as his eyes scanned the ridge above. The gunfire had stopped, but that didn't mean the enemy was gone. It just meant they were reorganizing. Mendez keyed his mic. Whoever you are, you got eyes on? A few seconds of static. Then, ridge is clear. They're pulling back for now. You've got 15 minutes before they loop east. Mendez looked at his men. No one said a word. No one had to. That voice wasn't command. It wasn't any known unit. It was something else. Walker leaned over. LT, I don't like this. We're following ghost instructions in enemy territory. We don't even know whose side he's on. Mendez glanced toward Reyes, who hadn't stopped staring at the rocky cliffs above them. You ever hear of someone like this? A lone sniper just showing up mid-op? Reyes hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yeah, once. Mendez narrowed his eyes. Go on. Reyes licked his dry lips. 3 years ago, Kandahar, Army Rangers. Got pinned down in an open field ambushed bad. Story goes someone started picking off the hostiles one by one. Long range, no visual, no trace. Saved the entire squad. Ranger CO swore it wasn't anyone from their unit. Nobody ever took credit. That wasn't in the report, Walker scoffed. Exactly, Reyes said. Because no one believes it except the guys who were there. What did they call him? Mendez asked. Reyes exhaled. Viper. Mendez sat still for a moment, letting the word hang in the air. Viper. It sounded like something ripped. From an action movie. A ghost. A myth. A sniper so precise, so untraceable, he couldn't possibly be real. Until now. Mendez toggled his radio again. What's your call sign? Another pause. Then coldly, don't need one. I'm not part of your team. Then why are you helping us? Because you're not supposed to die out here. Not like this. Before Mendez could respond, The voice returned, more urgent now. They're flanking west. You need to move. Where? Mendez asked. Follow the canyon. Stay low. 10 minutes. I'll signal again. Mendez turned to the team. You heard him. Move out, single file. Brooks, carry Reyes, walk a rear guard. No one questioned him. Not anymore. The canyon narrowed, forcing the team into a crouched jog. The jagged walls rose high on either side, forming a natural funnel that could easily become another kill zone. Mendez knew that, but so far, the ghost voice hadn't been wrong. Suddenly, crack, another gunshot, distant but powerful. Mendez whipped around. Behind them, 2 enemy scouts dropped from a ridgeline, their weapons tumbling down the rocks. Walker didn't even turn. That him? Reyes smiled grimly. That's him. They kept moving. Minutes later, the canyon opened into a dried-out riverbed. Mendez raised his fist, signaling a halt. He keyed the mic again. We're at the drop. You seeing this? Silence. Then, 2 tangos at your 2 o'clock, on the rise. Mendez spun, aiming toward the sandy slope. Crack. 1 target down. Crack. The other slumped over without a scream. Clear, the voice said. Mendez finally lost it. Damn it, I appreciate the help, but I've got wounded, no extraction, and no name for the guy feeding me God-level overwatch. Who are you? Static. And a long pause. Finally, Cole Maddox. Mendez's blood froze. The name was familiar. Too familiar. Walker swore under his breath. No, that's not possible. You know him? Brooks asked. Everyone in Black Ops knew Maddox. He was the best sniper in the program. Marine Scout sniper. Triple-tabbed. Guy could hit a quarter from a mile away in crosswind. He went rogue, Mendez recalled, voice low. 9 years ago, after Operation Black Dagger. Reyes frowned. What happened? Mendez looked away. Classified. But I'll tell you this, if that's really Maddox out there. We're dealing with a ghost the government buried a long time ago. The radio crackled again. I've cleared the next path. Get moving. I'll cover you until the next ridge. Mendez stared into the hills, voice low. Copy that, Maddox. They moved again, this time faster. Trust didn't come easy in combat, but the results spoke for themselves. Whoever Maddox was now, he wasn't their enemy. Not today. As they climbed toward the next ridgeline, the radio buzzed. Incoming. 6 fighters approaching from behind. ETA. 2 minutes. They've got a drone in the sky. Reyes looked up. A faint humming sound reached them just as he spotted a blinking red light above the ridge. Crack! The drone shattered in the sky like glass. Walker whispered, Jesus. Go, now, Maddox barked. Bravo 9 crossed the ridge, just as gunfire lit up behind them again. This time, they didn't stop. They kept moving, their faith placed entirely in a man none of them had seen, only heard. And that voice, it never trembled, never panicked. It was calm, like a man who'd been here 100 times before and knew exactly what would happen. 30 more minutes of brutal movement later, the team collapsed in a hollow beneath a collapsed cave roof. Temporarily safe. They took turns drinking what little water remained. Mendez finally spoke. I don't know what game this is, but we're alive because of him. Brooks asked, what happens when this is over? Mendez didn't answer. Because deep down, he knew. Maddox wasn't just helping them. He was hunting something. He wasn't rescuing the SEALs, he was using them. Guiding them through a battlefield he already knew like the back of his hand. The real question wasn't why Maddox was here. It was what or who he was after, and what would happen when they reached the end. Night had swallowed the valley once more, wrapping the mountains in an eerie calm that only war-torn landscapes could carry. The wind returned, scraping the dirt across the ground like whispered secrets. SEAL Team Bravo 9 huddled in a makeshift shelter beneath a collapsed sandstone outcrop low, enough to stay hidden, high enough to see the horizon. Lieutenant Jack Mendez sat with his back to the rock wall, staring silently at the small comms unit that had delivered the voice of the ghost who'd saved them. His jaw was locked, mind racing. LT, Reyes whispered, his leg now wrapped tight with a second tourniquet. That guy, Maddox. You're really telling me he's the Cole Maddox? Walker answered first. There's only one Cole Maddox. Reyes blinked. I thought he was just a rumor. One of those stories people tell at sniper school to freak out the new guys. The one about the guy who vanished after a mission went bad, started working solo, taking out high-value targets nobody could even reach. Mendez cut in. Not a rumor. He was real. He was ours. Brooks looked up from where he was inventorying ammo. You served with him? Mendez's face darkened. No, but I read his file. Back when I was green, I had to sit in on a debrief after Operation Black Dagger. It was supposed to be a joint force extraction. Something went wrong. Maddox lost his whole team. Nobody came for them. He was the only one who walked out. Reyes frowned. And the others? Slaughtered, Mendez said. Maddox made it out 6 days later with half a dozen confirmed kills. A bullet in his shoulder, and his team's dog tags stuffed in his chest rig. After that, he went dark. Disavowed. Officially Kier. Jesus, Brooks murmured. Mendez looked out into the black hills beyond. They buried him, but he didn't stay buried. The comms unit crackled again. The voice was still calm, but a little more strained now. You need to keep moving. I've eliminated 2 scouts circling east. You've got a 30-minute window. Before another patrol swings back, Mendez pressed the mic. You said your name is Maddox. If that's true, why are you helping us? A pause, because they left me too. The line went dead. They moved at first light, the orange dawn casting long shadows over jagged rock. The terrain was unforgiving switchbacks, shale cliffs, and deep crevices that could swallow a man whole. Reyes struggled to walk, his weight slowing the unit. Brooks stayed by his side, offering a shoulder. Every step felt heavier now, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of truth. Maddox wasn't just some back-channel operator. He was a phantom from their own lineage, a weapon their government discarded. And now, he was protecting them. They stopped midday near a shallow ravine. Ducking under camouflage netting, they found preset and hidden beneath brush. Booby-trapped? Walker asked. Mendez shook his head. No, planted for us. Inside the netting, they found an ammo can. Inside it, rifle mags, a hydration pack, painkillers, and a laminated map. Hand-drawn, marked in pen. Routes, danger zones, enemy patrol routes all updated within the last 24 hours. Who the hell draws maps like this anymore? Brooks muttered. Someone who doesn't trust satellites. Mendez replied. In the corner of the map was a faint scribble. Keep low. Keep quiet. Get out. Walker shook his head in disbelief. Guy's ghosting the battlefield like he owns it. He's setting us up for survival, like he's been watching this op unfold since before we got boots on the ground. Reyes spoke. Quietly. Maybe he has. Mendez took the map and scanned it. According to this, there's an old Soviet listening post 2 clicks west. Elevation, good sightlines, cover. We hold there until nightfall. Brooks nodded. And after that? Mendez folded the map. We wait for Maddox. The journey to the listening post was like threading a needle through a minefield. Maddox's directions were meticulous. Avoid the animal trail by the dead tree. Skirt the dry wash under the black rock. Hold for 20 seconds at the broken fence line. Every step brought them closer to safety or the trap they couldn't see coming. Then came the buzz. A drone, low, barely audible, but definitely close. Walker dropped to his belly. Eyes up top ridge, 11 o'clock. Mendez pulled out binoculars. Sure enough, a tiny quadrotor hummed in the sky, scanning the canyon. The cones flared. Don't fire. I've got it. A second later, from a slope they hadn't even noticed, a suppressed shot cracked. The drone jolted midair, then spiraled and fell like a dead bird. Silence. Maddox said. The Soviet station was just as the map described, half collapsed, surrounded by rusted fencing and pitted concrete, long abandoned since the 80s. It smelled like dust and cordite. The perfect hide. Inside, the team finally exhaled. Brooks changed Ray's bandages. Walker set up a perimeter with makeshift tripwires. Mendez sat alone, reviewing the map again. His fingers paused over the faded signature in the corner. That was when the footsteps approached. Not loud, not clumsy, careful, silent. Every SEAL raised his weapon. From the shadows stepped a man, beard scruffy, tactical gear warm, paint smeared across his cheekbones, and eyes hard, sharp and patient. It was him, Cole Maddox. Easy, he said. You shoot me. You won't make it past sunset. Mendez lowered his rifle first. We weren't sure. You were real. Maddox looked at Reyes. You almost weren't. He tossed a bottle of morphine toward Brooks. That'll buy him another 24 hours. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Everyone just stared, like they were looking at something that shouldn't exist. Mendez finally broke the silence. Why did you help us? Maddox looked out the broken window of the outpost. Because you weren't supposed to be here. This op was a setup. Walker tensed. What do you mean? Maddox turned back to them, voice low. The local asset who fed your intel? He's been flipped, sold your route to foreign buyers. I intercepted their chatter 2 nights ago. They were expecting you. They wanted you cornered and bleeding. Mendez stepped forward. You've been listening to their comms? I've been here for 12 days, Maddox said. Watching, waiting, trying to confirm it wasn't just another ghost op. And then we walked in. Reyes muttered. Maddox nodded. Like lambs to a slaughter. Brooks whispered. Why not report? It? Why not tell command? Maddox's jaw clenched. Because command already knew. Dead silence. Mendez's face went pale. You're saying they sent us in anyway? Maddox didn't answer. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes told them everything. Whatever had happened to Maddox's ears. Whatever betrayal had driven him off the grid was happening again. Different faces. Same playbook. And he wasn't going to let it happen a second time. Night crept over the mountains like a slow rolling shadow, thick and merciless. Inside the hollowed-out Soviet outpost, SEAL Team Bravo 9 prepped in silence. Every man sharpened his focus as adrenaline fought off exhaustion. Weapons cleaned. Mags reloaded. Routes memorized. No one spoke unless it mattered. Reyes lay on the floor of the comms room, a makeshift cot beneath him. His face had gone pale. Brooks checked his pulse again, steady, but weaker than before. He needs a bird within the next 6 hours, Brooks muttered. Or we lose him. Walker leaned against the crumbling doorway, watching the darkness press in. Still nothing from command. Mendez shook his head. Radio's open, but it's dead on their end. Because they cut us off, Maddox said from the shadows. He stood near the broken window, motionless, almost blending into the wall. His sniper rifle sleek, black, and battered from years of wear rested on a collapsed desk beside him. They sent you out here to fail, he said, just like they did with my team. Mendez turned toward him. You really believe command wanted us dead? I don't believe, Maddox said quietly. I know. His eyes locked with Mendez's. Those eyes weren't angry. They were cold. Cold with the kind of clarity that only comes after betrayal. My team was promised air cover, he continued. Extraction, support. We got nothing. 2 clicks from the LZ. Everything went dark. Comms cut. Our UAV never launched. By nightfall, half my men were dead. The other half died trying to hold a radio tower we were never supposed to reach. No one interrupted. Maddox looked down. I made it out on the 7th night. Took me 3 more to kill the ones who set. Use up, Brooks looked over. You saying this is payback? Maddox glanced at Reyes. No, this is me stopping it from happening again. Walker crossed his arms. If Command really sold us out, what the hell were we carrying that made us worth killing? Maddox motioned to Mendez. He's the key. Mendez stiffened. Excuse me? You're not here for recon, Maddox said. You think you are, but you're not. What do you mean? You were the bait. Silence hit the room like a thunderclap. Even the wind outside seemed to pause. Maddox pulled out a crumpled page from his chest rig intel sheets, scrawled in code, intercepted transmissions, hand-drawn symbols. He spread it on the table. I intercepted a signal on day 5, he said. Encrypted. Local militia relaying. Back to a joint intelligence task force code name, Black Cell Echo. Operates off-grid. No oversight. You won't find them on any Pentagon flowchart. They had your squad's call signs, real-time GPS data, payload delivery markers. You weren't just bait. You were being observed. For what? Walker asked. To track the enemy that's been selling American equipment across borders, Maddox replied. But they didn't want you to survive the fight. Just draw it out. Long enough for them to triangulate the buyer's location and intercept post-engagement. Mendez stared down at the paper. So, they expected us to die buying them. Name. Maddox nodded once. You were never the mission. You were the price. For a long moment, no one said anything. Then Brooks muttered, Son of a... Reyes coughed weakly, eyes fluttering open. So what now? Now, that was the question hanging in the stale air. Mendez finally broke the silence. We don't die in this canyon. He turned to Maddox. You have a plan? Maddox nodded. Yeah, one. But it's not simple. He pulled out a second mappice, one dirtier, marked with grease and charcoal. He laid it beside the first. There's a pass about 4 clicks east. Narrow, steep, and not in their patrol routes. No drones. Too rough for vehicles. It leads to an abandoned Soviet radar station on a plateau fortified, defensible, and just within evac range, if you can call it a Blackbird with a long winch. And extraction? Brooks asked. Maddox pulled a satellite phone from his gear. This is off-grid, military network bypass. It can call a contact of mine, X and SA. He can ping a private bird. But it'll take 4 hours minimum. We'll have to hold until then. Walker raised an eyebrow. What's the catch? Maddox glanced toward the eastern ridgeline. The moment we break cover, we'll light up every informant from here to Jalalabad. They'll come for us fast, and they won't stop until one of us isn't breathing. Mendez looked at his men. Reyes could barely stay awake. Walker and Brooks were worn to the bone. Ammo was running low. The odds were long, but Maddox was right. They couldn't wait. Couldn't trust backup. Couldn't believe in anyone but each other now. Then we move at 0100, Mendez said. Full blackout. Slow and silent. No errors. Maddox nodded once, almost approvingly. Good. I'll take over watch. Ridge angle here. He tapped the map. Gives me a 260-degree view of the pass. I'll drop the first wave before they hit your flank. And if they don't send? Just one wave? Walker asked. Maddox's eyes hardened. Then I dropped the second. The clock struck 0100. The team moved like shadows, silent, tight, focused. Reyes was strapped to a tactical litter, pulled by Walker and Brooks, switching. Every 20 minutes. Mendez led the way, eyes always forward. The pass ahead loomed dark and narrow, like a throat waiting to be choked. Maddox peeled off just before the incline. "Keep moving. I'll cover you from the ridge." He disappeared without a sound. The team climbed in pitch black, each man, guided by nothing but feel and instinct. The silence was unbearable. Any moment, the enemy could crest the ridge. Every breath felt like an alarm bell. Then, just as they crested the halfway point crack, a single suppressed shot echoed through the canyon. Then another, and another. Far below, in the darkness, muzzle flashes erupted in confusion. Maddox was already engaging, precise, controlled, each shot like a scalpel slicing through chaos. Mendez barked, "Double time! Move!" As they neared the plateau, the full weight of the night pressed against them. The shooting intensified behind them, but none of it reached their position. Maddox was holding the line, and holding it alone. By 0230, the team reached the plateau. The radar station loomed like a steel skeleton, rusted and abandoned, but still standing. Brooks laid Reyes against a concrete wall, applying another morphine shot. Mendez picked up the sat phone and dialed the secure contact Maddox had given him. Ring, ring. Then, NSA, line secure. "This is LT. Jack Mendez. Echo 4 to 9. Package critical. Request Blackbird exfil at grid 9 Delta 7. ETA. 4 hours, the voice replied. Hold the ridge." Mendez exhaled. "Copy that." Behind him, the sky lit up with more flashes, muzzle fire from below. Maddox was still holding. Alone. The plateau was still. Too still. The old Soviet radar station sat like a broken sentinel beneath the stars. Its dish cracked and canted at an angle, a rusted relic from a war long gone. But now it served a new purpose. Last stand. Inside the crumbling walls, the remaining SEALs worked methodically. Brooks positioned Reyes beneath the safest overhang, slipping him a final dose of morphine. The young shooter groaned, but stayed unconscious. His pulse was faint, too faint. Walker moved, silently, setting claymores and tripwires around the perimeter. "He won't hold long if they push hard." Mendez checked the sat phone again. Still 4 hours out. The evac bird was on its way, but time was a noose tightening around their necks. "Where the hell is Maddox?" Brooks muttered. Then, crack! A distant, sharp rifle shot echoed through the mountain pass. Walker turned toward the sound. He's still out there. Down the ridge, Cole Maddox lay prone on a jagged outcropping of rock, his rifle cradled tight against his shoulder. He was wrapped in a ghillie suit darker than the terrain, his body completely still save for his right index finger. Through the scope, he tracked Movement 5 tangos navigating switchbacks below, equipped with NVGs, AK variants, and body armor. Trained, professional, not local militia. Mercs. Maddox. Exhaled. Crack. The lead man dropped. Crack. A second. Fell before he could reach cover. The remaining 3 scrambled, ducking behind boulders, shouting commands in a language Maddox didn't recognize. It didn't matter. He didn't need translation. He read body language like others read books. They were stalling, waiting for a larger force. Maddox adjusted the scope, his breath even, heart rate steady. 84 beats per minute. It never rose, not even in combat. Through his earpiece, Mendez's voice crackled. "Status? Engaged. 5 down. More coming. Prepare for push in 30. Copy. Back at the plateau, Mendez gathered the team. He crouched beside Walker and Brooks, spreading a rough sketch of the terrain in the dirt with his knife. He says 30 minutes. Probably more. That buys us enough time to choke the first wave. What about Maddox? Walker asked. Mendez didn't answer right away. He'll hold. He's not like the rest of us. Brooks looked up. You think he's just doing this for redemption? Mendez shook his head. No, he's doing it because he still thinks this job's worth dying for, even when no one believes in him anymore. Walker tightened his grip on his M4. Then let's not make his sacrifice for nothing. The first enemy wave arrived sooner than expected. At 0335, flashlights bobbed in the distance. Shadows crept up the canyon walls. Then came the first contact movement at the tree line near the west ridge. Walker spotted them first. 10 hostiles, moving slow, staggered formation. Mendez gave the signal. They waited. Breath held. Trigger fingers curled. Then, as the enemy stepped past the last tripwire boom, the claymore detonated, sending shrapnel and dirt skyward. 2 men were shredded instantly. Gunfire erupted, chaotic and loud. Walker opened fire, dropping 3 more. Brooks covered the flank, surgical and fast, 2 bursts per target. But they kept coming. Maddox's voice crackled through the comms. Second wave inbound, 15 strong, 5 minutes. We're not gonna hold 5 damn minutes. Brooks shouted. Mendez radioed back. Can you buy us more? I'll try. On the ridge, Maddox rolled to his side, ejected the mag, loaded fresh rounds, and adjusted his suppressor. He shifted slightly, repositioning to a new overlook. This was how he lived now 20 seconds in one spot, then move. Always one step ahead. Below, the second wave was ascending fast mercenaries in body armor, armed with suppressed carbines and thermals. They weren't amateurs. Maddox tracked. The lead man through the scope. Muzzle flash. Crack. The man tumbled backward into the others. Another target crested the rock. Crack. Down. Then a third, sprinting toward cover. Maddox adjusted, held his breath. Crack. 3 seconds. 3 kills. But they were adapting. Moving faster. Smarter. He didn't care. He kept shooting. Back. On the plateau, Walker reloaded as 2 enemies breached the outer wall. Brooks dropped one, but the second dove in with a blade, slashing toward him. Mendez tackled the attacker mid-air, driving his knife into the man's ribs. They both fell. Hard. Blood sprayed the concrete. Walker pulled Mendez up, chest heaving. We're running out of time. Then the sat phone buzzed. Mendez snatched it. Extraction inbound. 1 click out. 20 minutes. Mendez exhaled. Copy. LZ is hot. How fast can you drop? Fast. Enough. Mark your position. He turned to Walker. Smoke. Red. Go. Meanwhile, Maddox was down to his last 2 mags. Bodies littered the canyon below. 34 confirmed kills. More wounded, but they kept sending more. He spotted a 4-man team trying to flank left. He shifted again. Crack, crack, crack. 3 fell. The last fired wildly uphill. Maddox didn't flinch. Just aimed, crack. Done. His cum buzzed. Mendez, we're marking the LZ now. 15 out. Maddox answered. Keep them alive. Mendez, you coming with us? Silence. Then, we'll see. On the plateau, Walker fired the red smoke. The helicopter thundered into view moments later, slicing through the sky like a beast of war. Its spotlight swept the ridge. Door gunners opened fire, suppressing the final wave. Mendez slung Reyes over his back. Move! Brooks climbed aboard first, pulling Walker after him. Bullets clanged against the bird's side. The team returned fire, dragging Reyes in last. Mendez turned toward the ridge. "Maddox! We've got room. Let's go." Nothing, just darkness. Then, from the shadows crack, a final shot, a final kill, but no Maddox. The bird lifted. Mendez stared out the open door, searching, hoping, but the ridge was empty. Not even a silhouette. No motion. No glint of optics. Just silence. They landed hours later at an off-the-books fob. Reyes was rushed into medical. The rest of the team debriefed in a darkened tent, with men in suits, not command, not CIA, not anyone with a name. They asked questions. Too many. The team gave answers, but not the one the suits wanted. They never mentioned Maddox. Not once. Weeks passed. Mendez returned stateside. He spent nights pacing, thinking, questioning the system he once believed in without hesitation. Then, one morning, a package arrived. No return address. No note. Inside, a single rifle casing. A folded map with new ink markings. A small leather tag. M. And beneath it all, a flash drive. He plugged it in. Only one file. A short video clip. Helmet cam footage. Grainy. From Maddox's PA V. The ridge. The kills. The flanking teams. Then his voice. "They'll never know what you did, but I will. You're not dead yet, Lieutenant, so don't act like it." The feed cut to black. A message played over and over in Mendez's head. "They'll never know what you did, but I will. You're not dead yet, Lieutenant, so don't act like it." It haunted him, not just the voice, but the presence behind it. Maddox hadn't just saved their lives. He'd controlled the battlefield like it was his own personal game board. And then, like a ghost, he vanished. Now the flash drive sat in his desk drawer, beside his sidearm, and a photo of Bravo 9 back before everything went sideways. Reyes was still recovering. Walker was reassigned. Brooks had submitted for early discharge. Everyone had been changed. By that night, but none more than Mendez. He looked down at the map Maddox left. There were coordinates scrawled in pencil, barely legible. Deep in the Blackfoot Range, Montana. Mendez didn't tell command. He didn't tell anyone. He packed a duffel, holstered a sidearm, and boarded a red-eye to Montana under the name John Keller. He had to know. The rental truck crunched over gravel as it snaked its way through dense forest. Pines loomed over the road, casting long shadows. By the time Mendez reached the final trailhead, it was dusk. He grabbed his pack, the map, and hiked. An hour passed. Then, too, the air was quiet, save for the distant cry of a hawk. The only signs of life were deer tracks and the occasional cracked branch. Nothing military. No outpost. No cabin. Then he saw it. Half covered by a thicket was a motion-triggered camera, nearly invisible to the naked eye. Another 30 paces tripwire. Subtle, professional. Mendez smiled. Maddox was here. At the base of a small ravine, nestled into the hillside, he found it a camouflaged hideout built into the terrain itself. Mud walls, recycled metal roof, a tiny solar panel barely catching the last rays of sunlight. Whoever built this had been off-grid for years. Mendez approached slowly. He raised both hands. "Cole, I know you're watching. I'm not here to bring you in. I just want to talk." A long pause. No movement. Then, from the brush behind him, dropped the sidearm. Mendez froze. He hadn't even heard the man move. He dropped the pistol into the dirt and slowly turned. Maddox stepped out of the tree line, lean, beard thicker than before, eyes cold but clear. "Only reason you're..." Not dead is because I saw this coming, he said. The others wouldn't have. I figured, Mendez replied. Nice place, quiet, and no one asking questions. Maddox motioned toward the cabin. You want answers? Come in. Inside, the shelter was minimalist. Cot, rations, stacks of book-sniping manuals, philosophy, old military field guides, a table littered with rifle parts. On the wall, a pinned photo of Bravo 9 taken years ago. Everyone still whole. Mendez sat across from him. Why'd you do it? He asked. You could have disappeared forever. Maddox opened a tin of coffee, poured it into a dented kettle. I had, but that night, the report. I heard the chatter. An ambush like that wasn't chance. Someone fed them intel. You think it was someone inside? Mendez asked. Maddox nodded. No question. The way they moved. The timing. Whoever planned it knew your route, your fallback points, your comms protocols. He poured 2 tin cups of coffee and slid one across the table. Why help us then? Mendez asked. You didn't owe anyone anything? Maddox leaned back. Because you were the only one who never turned your back on me. When they buried me in red tape, stripped my bars, left me for dead, you didn't buy the lies. You kept asking questions. Mendez sipped the coffee. It was bitter, strong, real. I never believed you went rogue. Maddox's expression softened slightly. Most did. The room fell into silence. Outside, the wind stirred the trees. Then Mendez leaned forward. Who fed them our route? Maddox exhaled slowly. A man named Calvin Trask, contractor, Blackridge Security. Used to be Dia. Got cut loose, now sells intel to whoever pays. Mendez frowned. How do you know? Because I intercepted a transmission that night. Traced the encryption. I've been tracking him ever since. Mendez's jaw clenched. You think he'll try again? He doesn't need to. He got what he wanted. Maddox stood and pulled down a tarp from the far wall, revealing a map with red pins, markers, and strings crisscrossing it like a spider's web. He's planning something bigger. Not just ambushes, whole operations, false flags. He's building an army of deniable assets. Mendez stared at the wall. You want help taking him down? He asked. Maddox looked him in the eye. I want to bury him. For the next 3 hours, the 2 men sat in low light, poring over intel, piecing together clues. Maddox had intercepted coded messages, supply drops, financial transactions routed through shell corporations. The web Trask was spinning was complex and dangerous. He's got bases in Syria, Turkey, and Eastern Europe, Maddox said. But there's a supply chain hub right here in the U.S. near Flagstaff. That's where we start. Mendez nodded. I'll get my gear. Maddox smirked. Bring something quiet. 2 nights later, a blacked-out SUV crept along an abandoned service road outside a private airfield near Flagstaff, Arizona. Inside sat Mendez and Maddox fully geared. Suppressed rifles. Comms. Thermal goggles. This wasn't military sanctioned. This was personal. We go in quiet, Maddox said. We find the ledger, and if Trask is there, we end it, Mendez finished. They moved like ghosts, slipping through shadows, bypassing tripwires and infrared sensors. The building was a faux logistics warehouse, empty on the outside, humming with activity inside. They breached a side door, neutralized 2 guards. Inside, they found a central server room filled with hard drives, SAT uplinks, and stacks of encrypted drives. Maddox set a charge, but paused. We need one of these to prove it. Mendez pulled a drive marked Crimson Load. Then, just as they turned to leave, the emergency lights snapped on. Motion triggered, voices shouted, boots stomped. They were surrounded. Out the back, Maddox barked. Gunfire erupted. They moved fast, dropping guards as they ran. The suppressors hissed like snakes. One by one, enemies fell. Mendez kicked open the back door straight into floodlights. A Blackridge transport vehicle blocked the exit. Trask stood there, older now, bald, trimmed beard, wearing civilian clothes, but the arrogance still radiated. "Well, if it isn't the ghost and the mutt," he sneered. "Your mistake was thinking we were dead," Maddox said calmly. Trask raised a pistol. "No, my mistake was not pulling the trigger myself." Crack! Trask's pistol clattered to the pavement. His hand shattered. Maddox didn't wait. He shot again through the knee. Trask crumpled, howling. Mendez stepped forward. "We're not going to kill you." Trask spat blood. "You don't have the guts." "No," Maddox said. "But the truth will." He held up the drive. "Everything you've done, every name, every op, it's all here. The world's going to see you burn." They disappeared into the night as Blackridge reinforcements arrived. They left Trask alive, but exposed. Back in D.C., Mendez handed the drive to a reporter with a thumbprint clearance and a history of exposing military corruption. "You didn't get it from me," he said. "Of course not," she replied. 2 weeks later, headlines rocked the world. Blackridge tied to illegal strikes. Whistleblower evidence confirms cover-up exclusive. Former DIA contractor implicated in mercenary network mystery sniper reveals secret war. Within the shadows, Mendez stood on a rooftop in Virginia, coffee in hand, staring at the skyline. The war wasn't over, but at least now truth had fired the first shot. They always say sunlight is the best disinfectant. But in D.C., sunlight doesn't reach the deepest shadows. 2 weeks after the expose detonated across global news networks, the fallout was seismic. Blackridge's stock plummeted. Congress demanded hearings. DIA agents were summoned to private briefings. And somewhere in Virginia, Calvin Trask had vanished. He hadn't been seen since the night Maddox shattered his knee and left him bleeding on the tarmac. The hospital reported he'd been extracted before federal agents arrived, taken by unknown men in a black SUV. No plates. No records. Gone. For most, that would have been the end of the trail. But not for Maddox. This wasn't about headlines. Anymore. This was personal. Maddox sat in a dimly lit safe house, deep in the woods of West Virginia, eyes fixed on a wall of data scrolling across 4 aging monitors. Each screen fed into a loop of surveillance footage, phone pings, financial reports, and satellite sweeps. Mendez stepped in, holding 2 black coffees. "You sleep?" he asked. "Nope," Maddox replied. "But I found something." He spun the monitor toward him. "Offshore transfer," he said, pointing to a shell company routed through Cyprus. Funds moved to a property in Belize 3 days after the story broke. Registered to Colton. Marks a name Trask used during deep cover ops back in '08. Private security? More like his bolt hole, Maddox said. Mendez nodded. "So, we go to Belize." Maddox cracked a smile. "We don't have jurisdiction, clearance, or backup. Since when did that stop us?" Belize was hot and humid, with mosquitoes that hit like darts. The safe house sat high on a ridge above the jungle canopy, surrounded by nothing but nature and silence. No neighbors, no signal towers. Perfect for hiding or planning. Mendez and Maddox approached at nightfall, both in lightweight gear and night vision. "No guards," Mendez whispered. "That's strange." "Too quiet," Maddox agreed. "He's expecting someone." They flanked the structure. Mendez breached low, Maddox high. The place was wired, but not with alarms. With traps, tripwires, detonators, claymores angled at doors. They froze. He rigged this place as a tomb, Maddox muttered. Then they saw it. A body in the main room, slumped in a chair. Trask, Maddox moved in cautiously and pulled the head back. The face was burned, unrecognizable, but Maddox reached into the shirt and pulled a dog tag from beneath the collar. Not Trask, one of his doubles. Message? Mendez asked. Bait, Maddox said. He wants us chasing ghosts. On they? Wall behind the chair, smeared in blood, were 4 words. You never saw me. Back in the States, the media frenzy had slowed, but the manhunt had not. The FBI had labeled Trask as a rogue contractor. The Pentagon refused comment. Blackridge disavowed all involvement. And still, Trask moved unseen, untouched. But Maddox knew his patterns. He's tying up loose ends, he told Mendez. Everyone who worked under him, assets, cleaners, analysts. He's erasing them. Over the next week, 3 ex-Blackridge operatives turned up dead. Car accident. Suicide. Home invasion. But one survived. Elena Vaughn, former logistics coordinator. She'd helped route weapons to Syria and Afghanistan. The moment she heard about the manhunt, she went underground. Maddox and Mendez tracked her to a rundown motel outside Phoenix. She had a pistol in her lap and a bottle of vodka on the table. When they knocked, she didn't even flinch. Doors open, she said flatly. You're hard to find, Maddox said. Not hard enough, she replied. They sat down. We're not here to hurt you, Mendez assured her. We need intel. Trask's location, his assets. Vaughn laughed bitterly. You think he told me where he sleeps? I was a glorified travel agent with blood on her hands. You arranged his flights, Maddox said. You know his patterns. She sipped vodka. He always used back channels, military decommissioned routes, no passports. But he did have one rule: never stay in one place more than 96 hours. Meaning? He'll move again. Probably. To the Balkans. He trusts the Serbian black market crowd. Maddox handed her a burner phone. If he contacts you, call. Why help me? She asked. Because Trask won't stop until you're dead. 3 days later, the burner phone rang. He's going to Croatia, Elena whispered. Dubrovnik. He has a fixer named Marek. Trask trusts him. That was all Maddox needed. He and Mendez boarded a cargo flight the next day under false identities. The Dubrovnik was beautiful and dangerous. Old stone streets, tourists snapping selfies. But beneath the postcard views was a different world. Smugglers, mercenaries, off-the-books warlords. Maddox slipped into the city like a shadow. Mendez kept watch from a rooftop 3 blocks away, sniper rifle nestled on a tripod. Then came Marek, slippery, pale, always twitching. Maddox tailed him through the city for hours, until finally, the man made a call. Yeah, he's here. Wants new papers. Cash drop too. Said 48 hours max. Bingo. Marek led him to an old castle-turned-private estate. That's where Trask was hiding. Night fell. Mendez watched the windows through his scope. Top floor, right side, he said. I saw him, briefly. Guards, 3 on the balcony. 2 at the front. Inside, no clue. But he's moving like he knows we're close. Maddox nodded. Then we don't wait. They moved at midnight. One guard smoked a cigarette on the upper balcony. Mendez dropped him with a silent shot. Another leaned over a railing gone. Maddox slipped through a side gate, neutralized 2 guards with swift precision, and scaled the side wall. Inside the estate, it smelled of dust and money. Oil paintings, Persian rugs, and a low hum of electricity. He moved room by room, pistol. Raised, sweeping corners. Then, I knew you'd come. Trask stood in the library, cane in hand, knee still bandaged, pistol aimed. "You're persistent," he said. "You're cornered," Maddox replied. Trask chuckled. "No, you just don't understand the board. You thought I was the king? I'm just a bishop." "Wrong," Maddox said. "You're the disease." "You kill me," Trask said, "and 5 more take my place. This isn't a war anymore. It's a marketplace." Maddox stepped closer. "Then I'll burn the market." They both raised their weapons, but Mendez had already moved to the adjacent building. Through the scope, he had Trask's chest dead center. He squeezed. Crack. Trask jerked and fell, eyes wide, pistol clattering to the marble. Maddox stepped forward, kneeled, and whispered, "Not just for me, for everyone you buried." Outside, the night was silent again. The manhunt was over, but the war, the real one, was just beginning. Because Trask's files, now decrypted by Vaughn, revealed something worse. An entire shadow network. A black book of operatives, operations, and targets still active. And at the top of the list, Project Widowmaker, status, active. Objective: assassinate 4 high-level military officials in a coordinated strike. Mendez looked at Maddox. "We stop this?" Maddox nodded. "All of it." Rain fell hard over Washington, D.C., turning the city into a blur of headlights, umbrellas, and urgency. But inside a high-security facility, buried beneath Arlington, there was no time for weather. Maddox stared at the encrypted drive recovered. From Trask's estate, lines of code now decrypted and displayed on the massive screen in front of him. Around him stood the few people he could still trust: Mendez, Elena Vaughn, and 2 DIA officers who hadn't blinked when he told them the truth. 4 targets, Vaughn said. 2 generals, 1 naval admiral, and a high-level cyber defense strategist. All scheduled to be in separate locations within 48 hours. Mendez scrolled through the dossier. And Project Widowmaker is greenlit. For simultaneous hits. No warning. No room for error. "It's not just assassination," Maddox said. "It's destabilization. Kill these 4, and you disrupt military continuity across cyber, command, and covert ops. It would take weeks to recover. That's more than enough time for any rogue network to move." One of the DIA agents, a stone-faced woman named Rivas, stepped forward. "We need to intercept and extract the targets, quietly, without alerting. Whoever's pulling the strings behind Trask. But it's not just about saving lives," Maddox added. "We need to bait the network. Make them show their hand." He pointed at the names on the screen. "We fake the kills. Phase 1, the extraction. The first target, General Malcolm Rourke, was attending a closed-door meeting at Fort Meade. Getting him out undetected would be nearly impossible, unless they used his own protocols against him. Maddox and Mendez infiltrated the facility, disguised as security auditors. Elena ran facial spoofing software to mask their appearance across internal CCTV. They intercepted Rourke en route to a briefing room and delivered the message. "Straight. You're about to be assassinated. Come with us." Rourke didn't flinch. A war dog with scars older than Maddox. "You got proof?" he asked. "We've got blood," Mendez replied. That was enough. Within 10 minutes, Rourke was extracted and flown to a covert safehouse in Virginia. Target 1, secured. Target 2, Admiral Leslie Park, was a different challenge. She was speaking at a NATO summit in Berlin, surrounded by media and international diplomats. Too visible to remove, so they opted for deception. Elena hacked into the summit's broadcast system and inserted a deepfake of Park's speech. Meanwhile, Maddox and Mendez coordinated with a local CIA contact to slip Park out via a service corridor, replacing her motorcade with a decoy vehicle rigged with a thermal body signature emitter. 5 minutes after she left the building, Ah. Sniper opened fire on the car. The explosion made headlines. Admiral Park, presumed dead. In reality, she was halfway to an underground NATO bunker. Target 2, secured. Target 3, General Alice Chun, was speaking at a West Coast defense contractor. Symposium. She had refused all security upgrades. "I don't want to be treated like I'm made of glass," she told her staff. But she was also the most valuable link. They needed her alive. That's when Maddox got creative. He contacted a favor from an old recon team based near San Diego. The plan was simple: stage a kidnapping during the event, blame it on eco-terrorists, and extract her during the staged chaos. At 14:20 hours, smoke bombs detonated in the parking garage. Actors in tactical gear abducted Sheen in front of dozens of witnesses. News channels scrambled to piece it together. By nightfall, she was sipping tea inside a secure hangar, unharmed. Target 3, secured. Target 4, Dr. Elijah Cross, was the wild card. He was scheduled to speak at a private tech summit hosted in Tokyo, but intel from Elena showed that the Widowmaker network had already infiltrated the summit's security. He wouldn't survive unless someone was on site. Maddox took the flight himself. It was a gamble, but Cross was critical. The man had written the code for America's nuclear missile launch authentication redundancy. If he died, backdoor protocols might activate a system Trask's handlers would want. In Tokyo, Maddox found Cross hours before the speech. "You're in danger," he said. Cross adjusted his glasses, wide-eyed. "You're the sniper, the one from Afghanistan," Maddox blinked. "I saw your footage. I always wondered if you were real." "I am," Maddox said. "And right now, so is the threat." He escorted Cross through a service exit as Elena looped a hologram of him taking the stage. 10 minutes later, the lights cut out. A masked figure approached the stage with a suppressed pistol. When security lights flashed back on, the shooter was gone, but so was Cross. Target 4, secured. Phase 2, the counterstrike back in D.C., the media mourned the apparent deaths. 4 simultaneous strikes. National panic. NATO scrambled. The president held a closed-door session with the Joint Chiefs. But behind the curtain, Maddox and the team prepared for the next step. Draw them out. Elena broadcast a fake internal leak 1, suggesting that encrypted comms from a Blackridge substation in Moldova had failed to report back. It worked. Within hours, a message was intercepted: coordinates, time, and a call for stage 2. To begin. The Widowmaker network believed they had succeeded and were preparing to activate embedded assets across the U.S., but they didn't know Maddox had been listening. He, Mendez, Vaughn, and a special team of operators were already en route. The facility was a fortified compound in the Carpathian Mountains. Snow-covered, minimal heat signatures, and surrounded by mercenaries. Maddox led the assault. A drone strike disabled the external comms. Snipers took out perimeter guards. Maddox and Mendez breached the command center as Elena jammed their outgoing servers. Inside, they found what they came for: a server farm, encrypted with layer upon layer of data. Maddox planted a USB kill switch, extracting only the metadata. Then he found something else: a map. Dozens of red pins each marking a city, a military base, or a defense contractor. "What is this?" Mendez asked. Maddox's face darkened. "This isn't just a hit list," he said. "It's a timetable." They were planning a full Cascade 1 that ends with a complete collapse of our defense grid. "Was," Alana corrected. "Because now we own it." Maddox pressed the kill switch. The drive sizzled. Sparks flew. Code vaporized. Widowmaker. Neutralized. 1 week later, Washington stood still as 4 familiar faces stepped onto the stage. Generals Rourke and Shun, Admiral Park, and Dr. Cross alive, the crowd gasped. Then, applause erupted. The deception had worked. Widowmaker had overplayed its hand. Blackridge was dismantled. Arrests swept through private military firms worldwide. Governments scrambled to audit their black budget programs. And somewhere in the shadows, a ripple was felt through every mercenary network, every ghost contractor, every corrupt executive. The master sniper had returned, and the world was no longer safe for the shadows. Epilogue Maddox sat alone on a rooftop in D.C., watching the sunrise. Mendez joined him, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "We did it," Mendez said. "For now," Maddox replied. "Think they'll ever know what really happened?" Maddox shook his head. "They don't need to." Mendez sipped his coffee. "So what now?" Maddox gave a small smile. "We stay ready." Far below, the city stirred. And above it all, the sniper watched, waiting for the next war the world didn't see coming. The end.